Item 10C, receive a report regarding street sweeping operations and related parking restrictions.
Mr. Mayor, if I may provide a brief preamble, you may be curious as to why the Human Resources Director is being asked to deliver a report about street sweeping and parking restrictions. And that is because because this is an important policy issue that has it requires the involvement of a number of different departments. I asked Tammy to coordinate this project, and at this point I feel that she has the best overall view. We certainly have other staff that are available to answer questions if you have more detailed questions, including Gino Quinn, our streets supervisor, Clara, our public services director, and of course the police chief. So with that, we'll turn it over to Tammy.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. At the June 12th meeting, the City Council directed staff to review the street sweeping program along with including those streets with parking restrictions. For the benefits of public health, a street sweeping program is necessary to prevent pollutants from entering the bay and to prevent low air quality from dust. Street sweeping also assists with removing debris and leaves that may collect in storm drain inlets to contribute to local flooding and property damage. Parking restrictions were originally implemented in the city due to areas that are low in elevation, making streets more prone to flooding. Also included in the criteria is looking at neighborhood density, types of trees that were prone to shedding their leaves, size and space of the garage, size of the setback and width of the street contributed to the need for parking restrictions in certain areas of the city. Every street in San Bruno is cleaned twice a month. Parking restrictions were enforced in order to be able to thoroughly sweep the streets in certain areas. So parking restrictions through the commercial and industrial area of San Bruno is swept from 6 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock. In the morning, and then most residential areas are swept and the parking restrictions enforced from 8 to 10 and some areas 10 to 12. Parking restrictions are enforced in most areas east of the El Camino from the north end of the city to the southern end of San Juan Avenue. This area has had a long history of flooding, and removal of leaves and debris from gutters by street sweeping has assisted to prevent flooding. Many streets are narrow, and the majority of the homes have one-car garages that contribute to an increase in parked cars on the streets. Parking restrictions allow the street sweeper to thoroughly clean the streets and keep the storm drains clear. I'm going to add one other part. Some of the concerns expressed by the expressed to the police department staff have been that vehicles receive a citation after the sweeper has passed the location. Parking enforcement officers attempt to stay ahead of the sweeper. However, restrictions extend for the entire duration posted on the sign in the location, just in case the street sweeper has to go around twice. Parking restrictions do not extend to streets west of the El Camino because there is not the same elevation and drainage issues, and with limited exceptions, the streets are generally wider and less congested than those east of El Camino. There are two areas on the west of El Camino that have parking restrictions, which are the 280 overpass, which is at Crestmore and Crystal Springs, which requires street sweeping every 2 months, and then Shelter Creek, which requires street sweeping twice a year. If the City Council would like further consideration and review of the street sweeping program, staff has identified areas in the city for changes. I'm available to answer any questions you have.
Okay, any questions of staff at this time? Vice Mayor?
Is there any study or any information as to how effective street sweeping is on the west side? Because I know in my neighborhood, the guy's in and out, and majority of the time he's in the middle of the street, because there's only so much you can do when there's parked cars.
So certain areas of the west side, it's not as maybe beneficial to those that have areas where there's leaves that are trees that are more prone to leaf shedding or narrower streets. So it depends on certain areas of the west side and also in certain areas on the east side.
But it's the policy now that the street sweeper goes up and down every street
Yes,
of San Bruno.
twice a month.
So my question is, maybe we ought to, look at the west side, because it's, in my opinion, it's ineffective in some areas. It's not, even if there are, leaf, buildup or whatever. If you're not getting the cars out of the way, and especially at 6 o'clock in the morning, people are still in bed, so they're not gone. So the cars are not going to be moved. I've always had this, this whole concern about the west side. It's like, why are we even attempting it? Because, the guys, the tires are just getting worn down from going in and out, and we're not getting an effective street sweeping. I have no problems with the reasons why, it's the street sweeping is the program on the east side,
Anyone else? Carolyn?
Came down here for cultural arts, but you're hitting on a couple of subjects here tonight that are very dear to my heart.
Carolyn, hang on a minute. Hang on a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was anyway. I've long talked about street sweeping problems. I'm up again in the west side, and the cars do not move, particularly down there by the apartments. They're lined up down Susan Drive. Those people don't get their street clean. You can see the street sweeper pattern going down like this. Plus, some of the people don't move their garbage cans from the street instead of putting it up on the sidewalk where they can get to, where the trucks can come along. I had to move 2 of them this week because somebody left them in the street, and the street sweeper came along, and I ran out and moved them quickly so that he could do the street. But then it causes blockage in the drains. And I'm constantly over there on a couple of the streets. I go out and clean those drains myself just to get the water running properly. So to me, it's a waste of money to pay somebody. I'm so with Ken on what he's saying. It's a waste of money having somebody go and they're not doing the job, not because they don't want to do the job, but because they don't get cooperation from the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe they shouldn't do it 6. Maybe they should do it new. Sarah Glasscock, North San Anselmo. I received a copy of this this afternoon, so I didn't even have a chance to go through it thoroughly. But I'd like to go through this point by point, not right now, but prepare like a rebuttal, I guess, because I guess like the general gist of these documents were kind of, it was kind of I understand why the streets are being swept, but then there was like a cost analysis and all this other stuff, and I've never brought anything before City Council before, so I don't know if this goes on to a public hearing, or if I can have a chance to prepare something, with some points that I was able to pick out being an East Side resident. So I guess that's all I have. Thanks.
All right, to staff, is this under the purview of the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee? Is that where we should send this for further review? I think that this has to be revisited, not so much in eliminating street sweeping on the east side, because we have had a lot of problems over the years, and I think some of those have been corrected with the street sweeping. But we do have an awful lot of very narrow streets on the west side too that probably should be addressed a little more aggressively. And I don't know if there's some way to get the word out to everyone else, whether it's in a water bill or a cable bill or whatever it happens to be, that these are your days, and we do anticipate that you will get your car off of the street for 4 hours or whatever it happens to be. I think we have to look at this a little closer, or a lot closer.
Staff is prepared to work with the City Council in whatever way you believe would be effective to consider the issues further. Just on the topic of public information regarding sweeping on the west side. We do place information in the water bill from time to time that shows a map of the schedule for street sweeping and encourages residents to be aware and to move their vehicles, as well as providing information on the city website. That is admittedly a softer approach than obviously the one that is used on the east side. This is in general terms, a matter of city policy that is addressing itself to some geographic and operational issues. If it is the City Council's desire to revisit or to have us review further whether operationally we would identify considerations that you might want to have or areas where you might want to revisit whether no parking on street sweeping day is a policy that you might want to extend. We can certainly come back with some additional information about where staff views that as being something that you might want to consider. And what we've tried to do tonight is to provide a more global overview of the types of issues and considerations and what it would take to expand the program citywide. I was actually surprised with the high cost of signage that would be incurred to place the program citywide. But there may be intermediate steps or pilot projects that we could bring back to you that you might want to consider if your interest is a more effective maximizing the effectiveness of the street sweeping program.
I would like the infrastructure committee to get involved with staff on this, and that would be Mr. Medina, who actually lives on the east side, and Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Great idea.
Okay.
Through the chair, I was going to say that we happen to have there was an event in the neighborhood on Saturday, and so I took that opportunity, though it shouldn't have been, was starting to ask them, what do you think? Before you eat, before you drink, let me ask you this question about street sweeping. But all the folks that I spoke to in the neighborhood felt that they would not want to see it go away. They feel it provides an essential service because of the trees, the parking. It also affords an opportunity to ensure the cars are moving, because sometimes cars will be abandoned, and that is just a opportunity in which to get them marked and begin the process. Some do feel, just in their own sense, it is punitive to them, though it's not addressed to the rest of the community. Some don't favor that, so that was somewhat split. For what the Vice Mayor was saying, in essence, if the case is that the street sweeper, like Carolyn said, is going up the street, maybe they only need to do it one time a month in certain areas and save that cost. It does seem to be a waste of time, honestly, if all they can do is go up the center of the street. Let's be honest, some streets in this community on the west side do have more open. They don't have the trees in the front yards as much, or certain type of trees. They maybe don't have that need as maybe flat levels in the east side do. So I think we need to look at the whole perspective, because just to put signs on, and I think that was the thing I heard Saturday, just to put a sign in front of everybody's street just to do it, doesn't make sense. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of staff time, and so we want to think smart, think outside the box, and really revisit and refocus on this whole street sweeping.
Okay, so we have our task ahead of us, and just to the member of the public that brought this forward, thank you very much, and there won't be any action tonight other than we're going to look at this a lot closer through staff and with the council subcommittee, and we will be bringing this back. So thank you for your interest. I appreciate that.
And can we make sure that Sarah, if you go ahead, you say Sarah, if we can get notified, if she can get notified with the appropriate notification, staff report, and ahead of schedule, so that she has time to digest it, discuss it, and if you want to have a block party and get all the neighbors, get some feedback. I don't bring in them all, but I'm just saying get some feedback. But just so she has adequate time, because I feel bad that she just received it today.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Through the chair,
Irene?
I just have two things. I'm kind of astonished that there is 400 to 500 citations per month and this is repeated, it's like, is it the same people, or is it people who forget? I mean, that's an astonishing amount of people for a relatively small area that happens that happens on a monthly basis. So maybe there's something that we're not doing to educate them. I don't know. So could that be something else you look at? And then the other thing is what Ken was saying, and I too have noticed that sometimes the street sweeper just goes down the middle of the street, and especially at places like Genevieve, at the corners where the storm drains are vital to be cleared, and they're not because of cars being parked around them. So maybe it's the time of day. Maybe 6 o'clock in the morning isn't the best time. Maybe it should be noon on a weekday when more cars are away from their homes. You know, people are at work and there's more space, fewer cars. Anyway,
Good. I think those are the things we're going to look at.
Thank
So,
you.
All right. Thank you very much.